How's it, everyone? Back here with a live trade recap from this morning. I'm going to do them a little differently. I think it'll be better. I'm going to do voiceovers over the recordings I record. That way, obviously it's easier for me. I can just focus on the trading, and then I can run through the voiceover and talk about my entries and exits and what I was thinking. So right now it's just before the market open here. I was looking at NADL and TNXP. Those were both of the plays I was looking at right before the market opened. Also, Zeno, Zeno. I could not get shares to short today on SureTrader. They did have them yesterday. That was the play I wanted to short, Zeno, but I couldn't get shares to short, and that was a perfect setup, but no big deal. We had not a bad day today. So right now TNXP is starting to take a dip here as the market opened, and NADL is popping up. I am looking right now when I'm sitting here. I'm just watching. I normally don't like to jump in right away within the first couple minutes unless it's a big time breakout or big time break of support. With NADL, I was honestly looking for a spike, which we got, a pullback, and then I was looking to short into any breakdown that we had, which we did eventually get as time moves on here. TNXP, I missed my entry right out of the gate. We broke down. We held around mid-level support, which I'm looking at right here. We broke pre-market support, and I was waiting for a bounce back, a little bounce to short into. I didn't get it, and I just didn't take an entry the rest of the day. Although it did fade. I'm extremely short biased on gap ups, especially gap ups with refurbished news. A lot of these have news that have been out before, or they're just news that's hyped up for no reason. And when it comes down to it, you play the price action. But I'm going to get a video out soon on a spreadsheet that I have. I have a few spreadsheets, but there's one in particular on overextended gap ups that just 80% of the time fail, depending on how much volume there is, the gap percentage. But about 80% of the time, I'd have to look back at the spreadsheet. They do not make new highs. But even if they do make new highs here, like NADL is doing, they're not dramatic new highs, and they end up fading throughout the day. Now, as I'm making this video here around 2:15, NADL has come back, which I don't mind. I'll look to short again tomorrow, depending on price action. But for the morning, it gave us a good setup to grab a short position. Now, as this video goes on here, what I did wrong was I didn't let my trade work. Now, what I mean by that is I took 3 total trades on NADL, whereas I should have just taken my first position and let it play out. Trying to build this small account, I need to learn to show more patience to let my trades play out longer, allowing for less commissions. I won't take as big of hit, and if I just did 1 trade instead of 3. But nonetheless, they were all 3 solid setups. So I'm going to fast forward a bit through here, as I did not trade TNXP, only NADL. TNXP kept fading, no real bounce back, and I just didn't take a short position. As I said, Zeno was the other play I wanted to trade. Couldn't get shares to short, so I was out on that one. So I turned all my attention to NADL. Now right here, before I fast forward here, now right here we get this hard crack right here. Now in the past I would jump and grab a short right away right here, and I would always screw myself because we would get the pullback and then we would go test new highs. So I've learned to be more patient on not chasing these big gap ups because there is always the backside of the move. There's no reason to chase so heavily when you're seeing it spike. So right here we're watching it crack. I don't have a position yet. I want to see what it does. If we got to bounce back here to the highs, if we made new highs, or what we are going to do. Over in the upper left-hand corner, Zeno is just hanging out. That on Zeno, what really I would have put about 80% of my my buying power into that play. I was that confident in it. They didn't have share short, but the reason I was going to do that is because yesterday you see that big crack from couldn't break 4 hours. We took that huge crack, and although we worked back up to near high day, we didn't break high of day, and we opened up gapping down. So I was watching in the morning to see if we were going to have a strong break to the upside. We didn't get it, and I would have took a short position early in the morning, looking for that break, as that big crack shows sign of weakness from the day before. Same thing here now with NADL. We got that huge crack. We didn't get that push back up. Now we're sitting around near VWAP. I don't use VWAP and RSI a lot. I have VWAP out there as I like to see what the stock is doing around the excuse me, around this area. I like to see how it reacts to VWAP, but I don't make any of my trading decisions based solely on VWAP or RSI. So right now I am watching, for now, a breakdown of that support right there that we made with those two candles to grab a short position. My first entry on NADL was, I took 500 shares at 225. Now, right about here, I took a position at 225, 500 shares, looking for a break further down. Now, I only took 500 shares because if we held support there, I was going to add on a push back near high of day. With that big a pullback that we had, I was confident that we weren't going to get a push back through a high of day. So I took a half size there, 500 shares at 225. And what I meant earlier is I should have let this play out. I should not have covered. I ended up covering all 500 at 209 not too long after. We consolidated a little bit and then broke. We got two candles of a little breakdown, and I yanked out right at the bottom of one candle. We ended up consolidating, and then I took another position a few minutes later. So right now I'm thinking, okay, we're gonna get this breakdown. I'm thinking we're gonna break down a lot more than we initially did, with how slight that initial pop was in the morning, right out of the gate. I was looking for a bigger breakdown here right away. So when we didn't get that, my thought process was to cover. Now, obviously hindsight, I should have held it, throughout the morning. Could have covered in the low 1.7s. Missed out on a few $100, but it was a solid setup. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward this here. All right, so as I speed this up here, I'm going to cover on the bottom of this next candle here, if I'm correct. Yep. I'm pretty sure I covered on the bottom of that candle at 209. Now we're going to consolidate here for a few minutes. Now this is in sped up time. You have to remember. As I'm looking at Xeno right there. Just crashing, unfortunately, without me. So right now, that was about an $80 trade. We get that mini pop up there on one candle, and we're consolidating. Now I'm looking for that breakdown of this consolidation. I'm going over and I'm checking out the daily chart. And I take a position when we start to break down. I take 1,000 share position at 211. Still consolidating. Now, at this point, I'm not really worried about squeezing up because normally you get a somewhat of a bounce after that first pullback, and that first pullback was more of a crack than a pullback. And once we didn't get that, I was pretty confident that we were going to break down. There was a lot of selling pressure. Now, obviously, it could go against me. But based on my spreadsheets, I was confident that we were going to crack down. Now, obviously, I let emotions get to me a little bit as I took a short position at 211. And I covered that 1,000 shares short position at 204 for a $70 gain. Now, like I said earlier, both of these entries are not bad entries. They're actually solid entries as far as I'm concerned. It's the exits. I didn't give it enough time to work or pay myself to where I think I should have paid myself. Right here I'm drawing a little trend line. Okay, so now this is where I start ready to enter. Once I see this forming here, if we get this breakdown below this trend line, I'm in. I enter at 211. Now I'm looking for a significant 15 to 20 cent continuation to the downside here. I don't remember exactly when I covered at 204. All I know is I did not give it near enough time, because at this point now we're breaking down, and I should not be concerned with us, U-shaping or anything to the upside here, because we're still early in the morning and it's clear which way the stock wants to go. Now, once we get to midday and we find bottom, that's when you need to be aware of a U-shape working back up towards, breakout levels, which I haven't looked in the last 30, 40 minutes, but NADL was moving up. So we got that perfect breakdown, and it didn't break down as much as I thought it would. So that's where I let my emotions, I would say, I wouldn't say get the best of me, but because it was still a $70 trade on a 2,000 or somewhere around there account, a little over, but it should have been more, and not should have been more because I seen it because it dropped so much more. Should have been more because it was bad exit on my part. I didn't really stick to the plan. It never was in question to me at this point whether it was going to squeeze up. I just didn't get that initial breakdown, so I jumped out too early. The other thing is, I see the P&L $2,000 account, and you don't want to lose that $70, $80 gain. But in retrospect, if you let it work, you see it, the $70, $80 gain, it might break down to $10, $20 gain, but 30 minutes later, it's $200, $300, $400 because you let your play work out. It's tough with a small account, as I'm learning. That's probably the toughest thing, I would say, with a small account. Seeing that P&L and not taking profits because there's a profit there. Because I understand, I personally don't agree with the whole you won't go broke taking profits, because if you take $50 profit, $70, $80 profits, 3 days in, you might have had a $60 profit, $50 profit, $80 profit. And then one day you have one bad loss. Even if you cut your loss at $30, $40 with commissions, that's a day, and then 2 days right down the drain. So you do have to find that balance of giving your play enough time, having patience, and taking the profit when you see it. So this is what I mean right here. It never really showed strength. It just consolidated a little bit is all. And I jumped out way too early. And this is where we start to break down. Now, I took another position of only a 500 share position at $2 before this breakdown here on the second little consolidation there. And I covered half of that position. So I took 500 shares at $2. We got that quick snap, quick breakdown again. I covered 250 shares at 187. And then I told myself I was going to let the other half, the other remaining 250 shares work for me. So what I mean by that is I was going to let it play out as long as possible and cover once I seen strength. Well, that didn't really work out, as we did end up moving to the downside from the 187 where my first cover was on that third trade. we moved down another 10 to 15 cents down to the low 170s. I didn't cover. I thought we could see more downside. We didn't, and I ended up just covering up around $2. So that third trade, I took 500 shares at $2. If I just allowed those first 500 shares to work a little more without covering half so early, that's another $150 trade right there that I missed out on. So, it's just things to work on. But the first two entries were as far as I'm concerned, solid entries. The first 500 share short I had at 225, and we broke all the way down to the low 170s. So, that's 50 cents. 50 cents right there from my entry point down to the low in the morning. I'll take that any day of the week. It's just a matter of balancing out. Do I take half off here? Do I cover here? It's just a matter of letting it work for you. And then my second entry, which was 1,000 shares at 211, even then, that's another 40 cents a share. That's another $300-400 I may have had if I let that play work out a little longer. So I ended all three of these trades. There was NADL, 3 total trades, all shorts, $175 on the day. Easily could have been $400, $500, $600, but you just go back, and I'm just going to go back and work more. I'm just going to study this, study what I did wrong, and get better. And like I said, the other two were Zeno was a perfect OTC, is overextended. You just wait for that crack. We got it yesterday. I should have took a short position overnight, but once we started working back up to the highs, I didn't. I was worried maybe we could get a gap up, so I waited, and today they put a restriction on shorting that ticker, so I didn't get in that, but that was a perfect setup. Overextension, multiple days up for absolutely no reason, and you get that first initial crack, see what it does. We gapped down this morning, and we just faded all day. TNXP was another one right out of the gates. No, not even a spike up, just straight down, and we faded throughout the morning as well. And NADL, as of about an hour ago, we were working our way back up into that mid-twos level. So I'm going to see what that does later today. We have about an hour and a half left in the trading session as I'm finishing recording this. So I'm going to see what NADL does. That might be a possible another short tomorrow, depending on what happens if we get a gap down, or because we have some room to run to the downside, and this is the first red day after a big morning gap up. So as you can see right there on the left upper quadrant there, there is room to run to the downside. And last time we had that green candle, and we had multiple red days. So I will see where we finish out. I might even take a small short overnight, depending on where we finish later today. But tell me if you like the video, if you like it with this voiceover like this. See if it's helpful at all. Any comments on my trading, please let me know, because I'm trying to learn every day. This is just the first month of the journey, so we're working our way to the top. Thanks, guys and girls. Peace.